Hi, Rama. It's week 25, day 4 of our Bible narrative reading plan. Today we're in 1 Kings chapter 17, where we're introduced to the prophet Elijah. Now remember that Elijah's ministry takes place during the time of this divided kingdom, as we've seen. The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom are separated. Mostly they have wicked kings. Sometimes Judah, the southern kingdom, has a good and godly king. But right now all of this is taking place while Ahab is reigning in Israel. Ahab is a wicked man, and he's married a wicked woman who has tied him to Baal worship, to worship of false idols. And upon this situation comes the prophet Elijah. And by God's instruction, Elijah announces that there will be a famine in the land. There will be a drought. There will be no dew or rain for the next 3 years. And because of this drought brings about a famine in time. But in the midst of all of this, God provides for Elijah in the same way that God provided for the children of Israel in the wilderness with manna from heaven. God is providing for Elijah by even commanding the birds to come and care for him, to provide for him, the ravens to feed him. But then the story goes on. Elijah goes to Zarephath. This is the area where Ahab's father-in-law rules. And so you would think this is an area where Baal, the false god, or Baal as you might have heard him called, is worshipped and idolized. And so you would think, well, surely the God of Israel can't reach that far. But of course he can. That's the point of this story. Even as Elijah goes to this woman, this widow, and she obeys him and makes him food, and this food does not run out. Again, a miracle in and of itself. We're reminded that God is able to do these things, but the reason he's doing this is to validate who Elijah is. We see this often with prophets in the Bible, that God is validating their ministry through miracles. So that's what he's doing for Elijah here. Then you have even a greater miracle, not just the never-ending supply of food for that season, but also that Elijah raises the widow's son. And so she understands that he is a prophet from God, and she thinks, look, you've reminded God of my sin, you've killed my son. And even when Elijah prays, we don't get clear indication why the son has died, but we are reminded that God is the taker and giver of life. Ultimately, he's in charge of all of that. But we see Elijah praying for healing, and God does heal this son. He raises the widow's son, again, validating who Elijah is, that he is a prophet of God. We see that in the very last verse of the chapter. The woman said to Elijah, "Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord in your mouth is truth." That's the purpose of these miracles we see here in chapter 17, that God has not forsaken his people. He is sending a prophet, and God is validating his prophet. Here's a summary of today's reading. For more information, go to tunemyheart.org.